Hey y'all, my name is Sam Solomon. I'm currently the product design lead at SalesLoft. I've been with the company about 9 years and have been building software for about 15 now. And I keep getting these questions about AI, incorporating AI into workflows. How do designers start using AI? How do product orgs start shipping things with AI? And we have these questions internally too. And I had built a couple of tutorial videos that I thought the team might be able to use to get designers to start being able to build prototypes with Claude and AI, these AI coding agents. And I think the team really caught on. And it occurred to me that maybe I should just start, creating a couple of videos, just showing at least what my workflow is. And the thing I've been trying to do with most of the designers is everything is kind of like a plateau. And there are these different like ridges you get to. You get to the base of this plateau, and then there's a really big wall, and it's really hard to get over that next level. And I think one of the biggest levels is honestly if you're at ground zero. So you don't have to have any coding experience here at all, really. What I'm going to try and do here is take you through the process to get you set up to the point where you can kind of know what questions to ask. And from there, I'm hoping we can start building some applications. I've got a couple of things in mind here. I'm going to try and split this up into a bunch of different videos, and I'm going to try and edit this so we're not just waiting for Claude or Codex or whatever agent we're using to finish doing. So hopefully this is a pretty information-dense tutorial. But yeah, so what we're going to do right now is I've got a bunch of stuff installed. This is kind of my personal computer. And so I've got all of these things installed, but I'm going to show you what you need and outline to kind of get you just set up with everything you have installed. And that's kind of the very first piece of this. If you're on a Windows computer, it's probably going to be a little bit different. On Macs, we'll have terminals. I believe Windows have PowerShell. So if you've got a Windows computer, it may not exactly be the same, but a lot of the stuff I think in theory here is the same. But we're going to get a Claude or ChatGPT account here. We're going to look at a couple of different optionals for terminals. We're going to install some kind of software that we need, and we're going to use CLIs for coding here. And so CLIs stand for command line interface. It is essentially an application that runs inside of a terminal. And I know you've probably seen the like Claude Code desktop app or Cursor, or maybe you've used things like Lovable. We're going to use, one of the things I like to do is my personal preference is to use CLIs for this, but also I think if this is something that's new to you, it's going to show you that a lot of these terminal things aren't as scary as you think it is. And B, it's going to give you a sense of I think a better sense of how like file systems and stuff work here. And but we'll save that for the future. So right now, what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to talk about some different terminals you can use if you're on a Mac. We're going to talk about getting a Claude or ChatGPT account. ChatGPT's coding agent is called Codex. It's very good. And we're just going to go through all of the stuff to set this up. So if you're on a Mac, you can type terminal, and you'll get something like this. And this is fine to use if you don't want to install anything else. It's really okay. I think there are better options here. And if you're looking at one most engineers love is one called Ghosty. And it's Ghosty with two T's. And this is basically an open source project worked on by a guy named Mitchell Hashimoto. He's a very famous engineer. He was also the founder of the company HashiCorp. He has kind of taken a step back from that business, and this is kind of a passion project of his. So you'll want to download Ghosty. That's a great open source one, and we'll not open the folder. We're actually going to open the application. Oh my gosh. There we go. Um, yeah, and we do want to enable automatic updates. So one of the things I really like about Ghosty, it's fast, it's configurable, but one thing that will, I think, be important that we'll see here is just really easy to split and and create swim lanes. So this is important. This is a pretty important functionality because when you get used to doing this, you'll want to start running multiple agents at a time. Now, if you've read stuff about Gastown or any of these things where people are running 20 agents at a time, honestly, I am kind of on the edge, the frontier of this stuff, and I've not really found it useful to be running more than maybe four at a time. And in reality, I'm usually probably running two, just because the amount of knowing what questions you need to ask, what things to build, how to break it up into smaller pieces is a pretty valuable thing. So don't feel like you need to be running 20 agents, but when you need to run multiple agents, this is a really useful thing. The other option here is my favorite. It's a little bit more controversial. It's called Warp. Warp is nice, and one of my favorite things about Warp is it has a true text field. When you're actually working in the terminal, you're not getting necessarily really like a real text editor. Now the you can turn it off, but the looks like Warp is now open source. Hopefully that will change some of the stuff with their telemetry. The argument against Warp is it's basically sending information back to the company, whatever you're typing in, to gather some sort of telemetry on you. A lot of engineers don't like that. If you're using this for work, I probably wouldn't advise doing this, but if you're just doing this for a personal project, it's great. But you can see down here, we've got a text field, and I can just type a bunch of stuff. And like the keyboard travel and highlighting, like I just, to me, that's honestly the whole thing. And like Ghosty, we can hit Command D and open a new terminal. And the same thing with Ghosty, Command W will close the selected terminal. And again, really useful for running multiple agents. If you like, you can still use the Mac terminal. That works just as well. It's more of a matter of preference. For this, I'm probably going to be using Warp because that is my own personal preference. And so download, install Ghosty or Warp, or if you don't want to use those, again, the Mac terminal is perfectly okay. The next thing we want to make sure is we have either Claude or Chat GPT. I think for Claude, I think maybe for both of these to code, you need a like $20 account. Claude is by Anthropic. ChatGPT is by OpenAI. Codex is what they call ChatGPT's coding agent. We're going to install the CLI here. If you try this and don't like using it, both of these, they have desktop apps that you can use. You can also use things like Cursor. There's a lot of options out there. If you don't like the command line, I ask you to kind of sit with me and try the command line first for a little bit. Before we can actually go and install this is going to look a little different for me because I have it installed, but we're going to need something called Homebrew. You can go to brew.sh, and Homebrew basically gives you the ability to install software on your Mac for developing software that most Macs don't ship with. And it's really as easy as going to brew.sh, and you can copy this, and then I'm just going to paste it in. And then it's going to ask for your password here. That would be your like actual Mac password. And let's see, it may not do anything here because I have it installed. Press enter. Oh, there it goes. It's probably going to realize it's going to update things that are out of date, but it should look like something like this. And then when it runs, that's kind of it. The next thing we're going to do is, now that we have Homebrew installed, we're going to be able to install another critical piece of software, which is called Node. And you may have heard, if you've been in the software world before, you might have heard Node. Node basically, JavaScript is an incredibly common, incredibly powerful language that runs on the web. Node basically is the piece of software that allows JavaScript to run anywhere. So to run locally, to kind of do things outside of the web. And so I think there will be, you can always search this stuff, but it'll be brew install node. And with that, we're going to get something really important when we do this called NPM, which is Node Package Manager. You don't need to know a ton about that, but that's really kind of the main reason we're installing this. And let's see. It's already installed and updated. If you didn't have it installed, you'd see something very similar to this before, where you'd see some kind of like downloading animations and it would install Node. Now we're at a point where we can install Claude and Codex. So actually, I'm going to give you three options here, depending on what you signed up for. So if you signed up for Claude, let's see. Let's see, there should be some documentation. Okay, so this, we're going to install it in the terminal. We do need a subscription. Yeah, native install. I'm going to copy this and just go back to warp. And I don't expect this to do anything, because maybe update it because I already have it installed. So let's see what happens here. It's a native build latest, so it probably is going to update it. Installation complete. And now what I would do just to open Claude is just type Claude in the terminal and hit enter, and it's going to open the CLI. You're going to get a question about, do you trust this folder? When we actually get into building things, we're gonna go through how to use and how to navigate in the terminal. But for now, I'm just going to say yes. And you'll see that you get this guy if you have Claude installed. Now, there's two other CLIs you can take a look at. And one is if you use ChatGPT, we're going to install Codex instead. Let's see. ChatGPT Codex CLI. And the install with npm. So also, one of the things I didn't actually do here is you'll see Control C to exit. To actually get out of here, you have to hit Control C twice, and that will take us from the Claude CLI back to the terminal. And actually, I'll type that just so you can see it again. So Claude, sure, I trust this folder. I'm in Claude, I'm in the CLI, I'm gonna hit Control C once, and again, it's gonna close and bring us back to the terminal. Now, to install, we're gonna install Codex. Oh, I just hit copy Control C, that's not useful. We're gonna copy the Codex install. And this is probably going to do something very similar. Okay, file already exists. So it's not going to let me do it because I already have Codex installed. But if you install Codex, just like we type Claude, here we type Codex, we're going to hit enter. And again, we can talk about the folders in a second, but this is what Codex looks like. There's a third option here that's actually kind of one of my favorites, but you can't use it with Claude. If you use OpenAI Codex, or there's any of the Kimi models, or any of these other things, if you want to try local models, there's one called OpenCode. and we'll do open code CLI. And all of these things we're installing, these like CLIs are kind of like harnesses. Let's see, where is the install command? Install via npm. That's what we'll do. I'll go back to work. Same thing, remember? So right now I'm in the Codex CLI. I'm gonna hit Control C twice, and it's gonna close it, and we're gonna go back to the terminal. So if I was gonna install OpenCode, and I'll show you what OpenCode looks like. And so again, it's not gonna let me do that. That's okay. And all of these we're going to do the same way. I just type the name of the CLI open code here and hit enter. It's going to open. So this is the open code CLI, and they have like a fancy thing. Anyways, so with open code, let's see, models, you can see they have a bunch of models. If you use Claude, if you use the Anthropic API key, you can actually connect it here. That's much more expensive than using their plan. So OpenCode's not really an option unless you are interested in using OpenAI AI models, which again, they're very good. Also, talking about like what models to use if you're trying to decide between Claude or Codex, they're both very good and they go back and forth. Right now, in my opinion, Claude is very expensive. Like Claude Code, you use a lot of tokens really fast, and you don't get as much mileage. And I feel like GPT 5.5, which is kind of the latest model you can use with Codex, is really, really good. And it also just like you'll get really far with just the $20 a month plan. So hopefully now, if you've been doing this, you're kind of at a point where you've got everything set up. The last thing I want to do here is just start, because this is kind of an introductory thing, is just explain the file folders and stuff. So let me close Chrome here, and we're going to get out of OpenCode. So there's a few commands here. I want you to think about, like, for file folders, like as you are using these things. Let me reorganize this into a list. Imagine that like we're navigating through, what's the best way to organize this? Maybe as we're doing this, I want you to think about we're navigating through files on the computer. So there's a few commands that are important here. And I'm actually just going to open a new window to clear all of that out. The first one that's important is ls. And what ls is going to do is basically list where we are. So if I go, let me see here, if I go like back a level here to Sam Solomon, I'll see applications, developer, downloads, applications, developers, downloads. Like these are kind of one-to-one. The next important command is change directory. So cd developer. I'm basically going to change directory to this developer folder. And now I'm going to type ls, and you can see all of my projects in this developer folder are here. Now, that is like, honestly, we're like 90% of the way there. Really, what you need to be able to do is be able to move around in folders and start your agent from one of these folders. We're going to do this a little bit more. So I'm going to cd into this. Let's see, I was working on my personal website to Solomon ls, and I can see all of the elements in Solomon and say, okay, well, now that I'm in Solomon, how do I go back? How do I go back to that developer folder? cd ... And now I'm in developer, and you can see that in here, and I've got all of these projects. So CD, the name of the folder, is like clicking into the folder. CD dot dot is like going back. Say you get really, really deep into a folder and you just need to go back to the home directory. You can do CD tilde, that little squiggly thing. It's going to take us back to the root folder. So applications, developer, downloads. You also don't have to just step one by one if you know where you're going. And actually, the other hint here is if you're using Warp, if you're using Ghosty or Terminal, you can hit Tab for autocomplete. But for Warp, you'd hit right. So I can say CD developer. And I actually already know what project I want to go to. So I'm going to do CD developer / Solomon. And see, it'll actually keep going, making recommendations, but I want to go in here. So I'm going from the home directory into developer into this specific project. And that's mostly what you need to be able to do in a terminal. Now, one of the things we should do here is also make a directory. So I'm going to go back to developer. I have a folder on my Mac in the root called developer, and I dragged it here. This is kind of where I keep all of my projects. But let's take a look. So we're in developer. The last command we're kind of going to learn, and the last one I think we need to know, is make directory. So mkdir, and we're just going to call this project. One thing I'll say here is I would keep these projects lowercase. I wouldn't use spaces here. If you need to have a space, I would just put a dash in between them. Just because it becomes easier to type and find, like spaces are not great in code. So keep it simple. If you don't want to do this, that's fine. You could just you can get rid of the dash altogether. But we're going to make a directory called project, and then we're going to CD into that project. And so now I'm going to go into developer. I should have, project, and we're in an empty folder. ls, there's nothing in there. So now we're going to start an agent. And I'm going to start the Claude CLI. So I'm going to do Claude. And the little Claude crab guy alien's going to come up. And the last piece of this is, so, okay, why is it important for us to create a folder, and why do we want to install Claude into these folders? I'd say that you want to keep things kind of sandboxed. This folder should represent the project you're going to build, the to-do list, I don't know, whatever you have in mind, whatever you want to work on. The bookmark application, whatever this thing is, you're going to put it into this folder, and all the code's going to be associated in this folder. One of the reasons we do that is it's easier to keep the agents kind of focused in that folder, because if the agent doesn't know, when this project gets bigger, the agent's maybe not all the time going to know what it's going to look for, and it's going to start going through other things. And if we put this at like the developer level, to find something, it may be going through every project on the list. And that's going to just be a waste of time, a waste of tokens. And it's just probably going to give the agent a lot of context that's not very useful. And we'll talk about managing context here later. But okay, so at this point, you should have a terminal picked out. Terminal, Ghosty, or Warp are all great options. We've installed Homebrew, we've installed Node, and then hopefully, depending on what you've picked, we've got either Claude or Codex or OpenCode installed. And this is kind of the point where you're at where you can just say, make whatever. So we're at about 25 minutes for this, so I'm going to stop this video now. But hopefully now you've got kind of all of the basics, and we're actually going to start building things here in the next video. Thanks.